Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH. We got a freaking good one today, Frank.
And it was a fan shout out.
Say that again. I had you muted. That was an awful intro. I was waiting until the music ended and then it was going to fade out and I got the logo to go away and then I was going to bring us in and I wasn't going to startle you and that all went good and then I forgot to unmute you. So
that's okay.
Good morning. Welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH. Frank, we got a good one today.
We do. We have a great one, and it was a fan shout out on my DM, and I took his suggestion, and we're going to run with it.
Yes, we have a listener-friendly show. I feel like fans watch. I feel like listeners interact and engage, and we have a lot of engagement and interaction that enhances the show. So listener feedback show. And we're going to give away one of these in the second half of the show, a exclusive color number 7. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about fishing rising water, something that is, I don't want to use the word plaguing, but something that impacts a lot of people across the country, especially with the wild weather that we've had. And then in the second half of the show, and we'll say it now, and we have tested this out. So we are going to give our listeners, if you're watching this live, all of you live, and you have a good internet connection and audio. So whether you're on a PC, on your cell phone, or whatever, we use StreamYard. The direct link. God, this is risky, Frank.
But you're quick on the trigger, so
I'm quick on the trigger. So there is a direct link to backstage on the show. So in the second half, instead of asking questions on the comments section live, you can direct click that link. You'll go into StreamYard. You type in your name. I want your first name and where you're from. So Frank from Ohio, Matt from Oklahoma. Enable your audio and video and then click enter studio. And we already tested this with Josh from Minnesota, who's helped me with audio over the past 2 years since I moved into the studio. Good dude. Drank some beers with him in Minnesota. Crushes them on Mille Lacs. Also works in IT. Good friend to have, Frank. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
But in the second half of the show when we do it, and then I can also, if you don't want to go back through, I can also pop that up on StreamYard, and then you just have to type in that link. You can copy that link, and then I'll see you backstage, and then I'll bring you in, and you can chat with Frank.
Live and in person. And we're going to reveal next week's Signature Series drop color.
For the color, which sold out in like the first day last month.
Yes.
This is the deal where you're doing the numbered 1 to 600 for 12 months.
Correct. They're Signature Series baits. They're numbered 1 through 600. And when you guys, a lot of guys were upset because they didn't get a chance to get it. They missed it. They didn't get it. But I know guys are buying multiple units, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So you guys could barter and trade after this whole thing is over and try and build your collection. So if you miss one, don't freak out. Somebody's got one somewhere.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun thing. So we're going to release that color. I don't know. Should we wait to do that towards the end?
No, screw it. Let's do it right now off the hopper, and then we'll dive right into the juice, and we'll just go straight. We'll just get crazy today, Frank.
We're going wild. So anyhow, this color is going to release on June 6th, Thursday, June 6th. It's going to release. It's called Mossback Craw, and it is in a Bandit 200.
Oh, the old school. Oh yeah, that's a dime.
Bandit 200 and Mossback Craw is what it's called.
Got the Frank SCALISH signature, and then the package will have whichever one you get 1 through.
Right. Well, the package will be.
Oh, that is number 1 right there.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you have number 1 of the entire series, I bet.
I'm hoping to gain number 1 of the entire series, but that's a definite, distinct crapshoot.
Phenomenal.
So it's Mossback.
You can use the code BTL24.
Yes, BTL24.
Get 15% off your order. Mossback Craw next week. It drops.
pretty little thing.
Dude, that is cool.
And the Bandit 200, dude, this is a real lure right here.
That's what I caught the fish hanging on. Well, the replica hanging on my wall on the Bandit 200 out of Lake Taylorville, dude, on a craw pattern, chartreuse craw.
Chartreuse craw. Well, dude, when I started fishing Bassmasters, my first season, if you didn't have Bandit 200s, you weren't fishing. You just weren't fishing. Proud to say I got 02.
And number 43 out of the first two. That was David. Yeah, we've talked about this off air. Have we talked about it on air? How the Bandit 100 and 200, particularly in the Midwest, I believe, was, I mean, every club tournament was a Texas rigged worm, a black and blue jig, and a Bandit 100. And if you happen to be on a lake that had 6 to 8 foot on the riprap or around the bridges or on chunk rock, the Bandit 200.
Yeah, and the color choice too back then was root beer chartreuse.
100%. Or there were a couple guys in the club that loved throwing Mistake.
Yeah, the Mistake, dude.
The guys who were cutting edge would throw the Mistake, but the root beer chartreuse was a big one. And then also just that kind of matte gray shaddy one that was like the black with like a weirdish kind of darker gray color on the sides.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, but I'll never forget it. I was on Pickwick and Wilson, Pickwick and Wilson, and I got into a really good pattern throwing a white spinnerbait, and I'm probably not going to elaborate too much on the details of the pattern, but it was pertaining to bluffs. Anyhow, I had a really good buddy of mine that was fishing back then, and he was a fabulous fisherman. Like, I mean, fabulous. And he fished the opens as well. And so he's like, hey, have you paralleled any of those bluffs with the Bandit 200? And I said, no, I haven't been doing that. I've been really catching them doing something else. He goes, well, if you're doing what you're doing, then, parallel the bluffs with the 200. I go, yeah, okay, whatever. Knowing that bait only gets down, 6 or 7 feet, and some of the bluffs are 20 feet deep, and I started paralleling the bluffs with that 200, and they would literally, the term loaded to the cork comes to mind, because they would hit that thing and you didn't know if it was going to be a big spot, a largemouth, or a smallmouth. What? Oh, loaded to the cork.
I got up extra early this morning.
I didn't even
started. I was like, I wonder if I've got all those letters. It had been a while since I updated
I didn't even see that. That's how if I was bass fishing, I would have just missed that pattern. I totally
Wait, so you kind of elaborated on it. Was there any secrets to it? Lincoln's like, no, please elaborate.
My bluff thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was secrets, but it's not a secret. Okay, so basically, oh boy.
What? Played it on jumping back on tour in the next 5 years, Frank?
Yeah, that's a fact. So, okay, so basically what I was doing was I was going to all the little cuts and pockets in the bluff walls. You fish the 2 bluff ends, that's the obvious choice. But then usually there's timber that runs down the middle of the gut on those things. And so I was slow rolling that white spinnerbait through the deep timber on those things, and was literally smoking them out of there. And believe it or not, most of them were smallmouth. And then when I started paralleling the bluffs with the 200 Bandit, I was catching all 3 species. And so I told my buddy, I said, hey, Roof, I said, dude, I'm missing an eye on mine. He goes, you throw that blind bastard. They don't care.
So are you paralleling it, what I call the screw the co-angler pattern, where you can stick your rod out and touch the bank? Yeah,
100%. 100%. I mean, it's not done intentional, but that's the only way you can get a bite.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, okay? Because we're going to talk about it today too. Boat control is everything. And so when you come into steeper, deeper banks, bluffy type stuff, If you're perpendicular, casting perpendicular to it, you're not even in the strike zone. You're wasting casts. You have to parallel those. The more vertical the break is, the more parallel you have to be. If it's a 45 or even flatter than a 45, you don't have to be 100% parallel because you're bringing it down that edge. But if it's steep, you have to be parallel because those bass tuck up against the rocks. There's rocks that stick out on a bluff. A bluff's not like a smooth, flat concrete wall. There's boulders that stick off of that bluff from, the water that eroded it to make that bluff. And so what you look for, like what I look for, we're going down another path, but the trick about looking at a bluff to find out high percentage spots on the bluff is you don't look at the water, you look above it, you look at the bluff. And you'll see, if you see a lot of debris that caved in washouts that aren't even in the water, if you see washouts, okay, there's debris down below where that washout was, even though that washout might be 15 feet above the water level.
I mean, are we talking about stuff like right here, Frank?
Yeah.
I mean, nice shelf, a little cutout. You've got a big boulder down here. The fish are hanging on this ledge.
Right.
The water's up. It cuts back 8-10 feet here. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere. But if you're there, you're bringing it right along the nectar.
Right. You're right. Exactly. You're in the feed zone. And so that's the whole key to that. Nobody's fishing a bluff to screw a co-angler if you're fishing the bluff the right way. You're not screwing the co-angler intentionally.
Yeah. Well, they should be flipping a shaky head right behind you and just let
100%
float down.
Right. Or yeah, exactly. Or a Ned rig. But so those pictures indicate, really well what's underwater on a bluff wall. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not straight. I mean, there's parts of it that'll be sheer, but most of the time there's, other structural elements within that bluff wall. And that's the whole secret to bluff fishing is you gotta find that stuff.
Okay. So this is going to tie it together really well. So I was watching Dustin Connell's YouTube video from Lake Eufaula, the Bass Pro Tour on Oklahoma. And in practice, he puts in, and he's throwing a swim jig. He's throwing a swim jig on bluff, actually. And he's talking to his cameraman, and he said, so here's the problem. He goes, this thing is rapidly rising. They'd had a monsoon there. And this is what we're going to talk about today is rising water. And he takes a swim jig and he casts it up way up on top of a rock. And he goes, you see, he goes, look, we're fishing here now. He goes, on my first day, he goes, I'm going to be throwing my swim jig off of that rock that's 4 foot higher. That's completely out of the water right now. Yeah. He's like, so it's real hard to practice because there was, 5 foot of that kind of jagged rock. And he's like, that's where they're going to be in 3 days, even though the water is 4 foot low right now.
Right.
So he was already trying to determine how he planned on fishing. You got to go watch it because he fished little inflows in the muddy water where there were little cuts and the water was flowing out, and he got on a pattern.
We're covering all that.
Let's get into that. But so there's your bluff with the Bandit 200 transitioning into rapidly rising water on reservoirs.
Yeah, we're covering that because washouts are money, but we'll get to that later in the show. So, and then I'll have a Table Rock story that was ludicrous. They actually canceled the event. I probably told the story before just because of shock value, but they canceled the Bassmaster event because
you've told that one.
Yeah, Branson flooded. And then I'll tell you the difference between the largemouth and the smallmouth. But so I guess we'll just go. Let's just get into
have at it.
Okay, so I'm gonna make this really simple. It's gonna be a really simple breakdown. It's gonna be detailed, but it's gonna be really simple, and the bell's gonna go off. And you guys will most assuredly have a much easier time fishing the high water. So my first rule of thumb, and I live by this, is when the water's rising or it's already risen, okay, I look for places that I can fish that the bass can't get away from me. Okay. So what I mean by that is I'm fishing, steeper stuff. And here's the reason. Okay. So I don't know if you could see this because that's
It looks
behind me.
perfect.
Okay. So let's say this is the normal water line right here. Okay. That's where it normally is. Now you have the high water episode. So now your water line is here. So if you can only get your boat to this point, and you've got 50 to 75, 100, 200 yards of new flooded water, you can't get to this. There could be a million trees here. It could be a flooded woods. It could be whatever. You can't get to this part because you can't get your boat past this point right here. So these fish can get away from you. Unless they're hanging right on the edge, the original bank, you can never catch these fish. So what I like to do is I like to look for steeper stuff like bluffs, like we talked about, bluffs, bluff ends, man-made riprap walls like the riprap at Browns Creek that goes all the way across on Gunnersville. Water comes up, the fish don't go anywhere, they just go with the water. And so here's what happens in that situation. So again, is this on, Matt?
Yeah, yep, perfect.
Okay, so if here's the normal water line, we got a steep bank. Here's the normal water line. Here's the flood line. These bass can't get away from you. They can only go up. This might only be a cast away. You know what I mean? They can't get behind you here or way in front of you here. They're trapped by the landmass. So these things are much easier to fish because the bass can't get way back up into the woods. All right. So we're talking reservoirs and lakes. I'm going to hit rivers in a second. And this stuff applies to rivers as well, but you're going to have to pay attention to something else in the river, and I'll get to that. So let's talk about, so for this section, we're going to talk reservoirs, lakes. So I found that in flooded water conditions or high water conditions, bass show a preference for certain things. And the one thing that amazed me more than anything that I've discovered in my fishing across this country, bass love cut lawns. When the high water goes into people's backyards, the cut grass, the yards that are nice and manicured, the bass love that. And I don't know why, but they do. And it's a pattern that you could run. The other thing I noticed is that if they got picnic tables out, they use the picnic tables and they use the hedgerows, where people plant the hedgerows down, they trim them up real nice. They use the hedgerows. I've caught them off of steps, people's steps, and I've caught them off of wooden fences or even chain link fences. So it's really wild how they will totally gravitate towards this man-made stuff. So now let's talk about I want to look at largemouth, and then I'm gonna kind of go smallmouth, spotted bass kind of together ish. So if you're talking about the spring, all right, largemouth in most cases, except for when they're actually bedding, okay, they will have a tendency to follow the water up because of all the new feeding opportunities, the new cover. The largemouth have a tendency to follow that water up. But what I noticed was the smallmouth will usually stay in the same place. So as the water rises over their head, they're not going up with the water. They're staying originally where they were. All right. Okay. So, for example, if you're running a pattern and you found them in 15 feet of water, and let's say that you're still practicing for the event, and the first day you got there, the water was normal, and you found them in 15 feet. The next morning you wake up for practice and now there's 5 extra feet of water in the system. Now you got to look for new fish in the same pattern you're running, but now you got to fish with 20 feet of water over them because you added 5 feet to it. So this is exactly what happened to me at Table Rock. Every day the water level came up and it was drastic. I mean, it flooded Branson, Missouri out. But it was coming up, 5 to 9 feet a day. And so the first day in practice, and actually it was 15 feet, I was catching these smallmouth in 15 feet of water on the inside swings of secondary points. They were staging to spawn. And they weren't spawning yet, but they were staging to spawn. And they were in 15 feet of water. The next day, and I'm looking for fish for the tournament. The next day I go out to practice and the lake's, 5, 6 feet higher. So I added that to the water. And now I'm fishing 20, 21 feet, looking for inside turns and swings on these points, 20, 21. And I'm catching smallmouth and I'm catching them. And I am like freaking out because I literally, every time I stopped the boat, I could have caught 18 pounds. And anyone who fished Table Rock knows that if you're catching smallmouth like that, you're doing something pretty good. But it was happening every time I would stop. So I was really dialed in on this pattern. The third day came, it flooded even higher. So now I've got even more water on top of this stuff. But the fish the smallmouth never moved. I have a good friend of mine who passed away now, unfortunately, but he was targeting largemouth. And his largemouth were moving farther and farther back with the water. As the water rose, his patterns were changing. The fish were moving shallower and farther back. So my pattern was consistent the whole time, but his was changing. I was targeting smallmouths. He was targeting largemouths. And so that's when I realized that the two animals behave a little differently in similar situations. Now, keep in mind, this was a pre-spawn event. Well, not even true pre-spawn, a little bit before pre-spawn. And so the largemouth were going shallow anyway. They just kept going with the water. My smallmouth stayed put. They liked the gravel. They liked what they were looking at. They weren't moving. They didn't even go to the original bank. They stayed right where they were. So you have to realize, and then I made a statement about the original bank. Okay, so here's another thing that bass will do. So they'll use, like if you get a high water episode, certain areas of the lake or certain pockets, usually it happens in the shorter pockets, and in the bigger creek arms, it happens in the pockets in the creek arms. So if you have the bass, if this green line here, am I on?
Yep, you're perfect.
Okay, if this green line is the original bank, this is a short pocket. Main Lake's down here. This is a short pocket, original bank line. Water floods. This is all the new flooded water is the pink line. The bass will, if they bass were hanging out here, okay, a cast away from the bank, the original bank line, all they'll do is slide up to the original bank line. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a safety valve. They'll use that original bank line until everything gets a little more stable. Then they'll start to slide up. And here's the thing. Here's what I noticed. Okay, when the lake recedes and you see puddles from the water that was up, and then it recedes, and the water that doesn't go back to the lake that stays in the dips in the pockets, you never see a bass caught in those. You'll see carp in them. You'll see catfish in them. You'll never, ever see a bass caught on dry land. So they have a tendency to move up and back with the water before they get into trouble. And so the original bank line becomes their first safety net. I'm going to the bank line. If the water's not falling, then I can move my way back in eventually. You know what I'm saying? It's like a staging point for them. and as always, a high percentage spot. Now, this is what you brought up, Matt. This is so funny. You so brought this up. A super incredible high percentage spot is active drains. That's where the water's actually running into the lake. Those drains that are active attract tons of bait fish because obviously bait fish feed on plankton, zooplankton, phytoplankton, and that runoff water, okay, brings all these different food sources in for these, bait fish. Well, the bass obviously follow the bait because they want to eat too. So it's like you got this microcosm of an ecosystem going on these drains. And these drains, these active drains, you catch all species of bass in them. It's not particular to one or the other. They all do it. The first time I encountered real live drains, like rushing water, was on Smith Lake in Alabama. That was insane. I just ran down the lake looking for water coming in, and everywhere I saw water coming in, I just freaking went there and fished and caught them. Now here's a tricky thing. So let's talk about summertime. The bass are offshore for the most part, or on near shore structure. The same elements hold them. Even in the high water, the same structural elements will hold them. They'll just move shallower on that structural element. For example, if you're fishing a long point, then you're catching them at whatever depth range you're catching them at. The water rises, the bass kind of go up on that point. Let's say they're comfortable in, and I'm just going to use 15 feet because I said it. Let's say they're comfortable in 15 feet of water. Water rises, the bass might slide up that point to the new 15-foot mark. You follow me? So They're going to use that. They'll use it. They're not going to leave it. They're going to use it. They just might be in a different location on it. Because the thing to remember with points is the inside and outside swings on the point are high percentage spots. If you've got cover on that point, that cover becomes a high percentage spot. And so there may be, as the water floods, there's going to be new cover elements in the water that the bass could relate to now because now they got water over their head. So let's just say we're fishing a big bump or a rock pile. Now this is where it gets funny. Okay. Again, I think I'm good.
Perfect.
Good. Okay, so here's your rock pile, your hump, your bump, whatever you want to call it. Here it is. Here's the original water line, and here's where you found the fish. All right. Water rises. The fish may stay there. Okay, depending if it's comfortable enough for them and the food is here, they'll stay here. They won't move. But let's say you go here, you check where you found them, and they're not there. They didn't leave this. They didn't leave this structure. Okay. All they did was pulled up higher on it. So they have a comfortable amount of water over their head.
Dude, what? I can't remember. I mean, dude, I've interviewed every top 10 in the Elite Series from 2008 to like 2019. And I can't tell you how many times you hear a Keith Combs or a Kevin or a Tim Horton or an Edwin on these lakes in the spring or in the post spawn. And they use the term, they'll say, this is how it'll go. I really got on them in practice, but then, we had all that rain. I went out there. It was kind of a slow morning, but then I realized that they just slid up on top.
Yep.
That is the perfect example of when you hear the term slid up on top.
Yeah, 100%. It's all predicated on that animal's comfort zone. And if the food moves, I have caught bass in high water episodes offshore in the exact same places that I caught them before the water had risen. I've also encountered where I go there, they're not there, and I got to find the highest structure, the highest depth change on that structural element because they just moved on it because everything else just moved on.
And this is primarily largemouth that are not spawning. Lincoln asked, unless they're smallmouth, then they might stay. What you were saying is smallmouth have a propensity to stay on the original bank line where they are specifically during spawning. So they might be in 7-8 foot and they were in 4 foot.
Correct.
So if you can find that original bank line, a lot of times it'll just be in that deeper and they won't move. So it'll look like you're fishing offshore, but you're really only 3 foot off the original bank line.
Correct.
That's 100%. What happened in the St. Jude up there in Minnesota on the Mississippi River.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happens. And then at the end of this, I got a couple of key points that you need to remember. Okay. So offshore structure, it behaves different than bank-related fish, because because in a true summer pattern, bass are usually have moved to things that are not connected, structural elements that are not connected to the mainland. Now, there's going to be some that are still connected that go way out that they'll utilize, but for the most part, they work their way out on the structure after the spawn. They work their way out. Everything they're relating to pre-spawn and post-spawn is bank-related structure. Okay, everything connected to the bank, long flats, long points, etc. As summer progresses, the bait fish start to open water roam, the bass start to follow them. Now the bass are taking residency up on structural elements that are not connected, like isolated bumps, isolated rock piles. You could consider the main river channel not connected, but it's kind of connected. But they use the main river channels also. It's far enough offshore that bait fish are all there. You get the idea. This isn't a structure show. This is high water. So anyway, so that's how they're going to use the offshore structure in a high water element. Now the tricky part is river systems. But here's the thing about river systems. River systems to me are easier to fish than lakes because the current dictates everything. So when you have a high water episode on a river, we're going to look for current breaks and eddies always. We always look for current breaks and eddies. So there's a myriad of things that can create a current break: rock jetties, inside turns on points, locks, the lock part of the dam where the water's not coming over the dam, but the lock makes a big giant eddy in there. Inside tight, short pockets, the inside corners of those pockets, they create eddies on both sides of them where the water changes direction. The current's ripping out that way, and then the eddy's going in and it changes the direction. That's how you know there's an eddy, and you'll see a definitive current seam there. Steep banks work. The steep bank theory, where they can't get way back and you can't lose them on a steep bank. But if it's a steep bank, it has to have significant cover that can break and deter the current, because that's going to be their holding places. That's going to be their ambush points, because bass will use current seams. Now, for those guys unfamiliar with like steelhead and trout fishing and stuff, a current seam is where you might have faster water that's butting up against slower water. So you've got a current seam there. They use those current seams as ambush points where they can sit in the slow water and feed on the stuff that's swimming by them or going by them on the faster water. So you want to pay attention to those because they're fabulous ambush points. Another thing you have to remember is in river systems, I always work upstream. The nose of my boat is always going upstream. I'll target my targets predicated on where I see the current breaks, the swirls, and the eddies. But boat control is massively important. So flooded water usually means faster current. There's times where you can't work into the current because it's too fast. So you have to back drift it. When you're back drifting, okay, I always point my nose into the current and use my trolling motor to slow me way down. And then instead of normally how you'd cast in front of your boat, I'm going to back drift it, and now I'm going to cast you know, at an angle behind me, because now I have to fish. I have to hit these pockets and these current breaks and all these little eddies from all the obstruction that's breaking the current. I have to be accurate to hit them. So that's what I'll do is I use my trolling motor to slow me down so I can be way more accurate on my casting, because you have to be accurate when you're fishing fast current against the bank, because their windows, their attack windows are very small, because they have to get behind whatever. If it's this boulder, they're going to sit right behind that boulder because they don't have to fight the current then. And they can ambush whatever comes by. So if this is where they're in and your cast goes over there, you have no chance of catching that fish. You have to be right in his strike window to catch him. This is I've done this on Pickwick a million times, going up by the dam, the spillway, and fishing that fast rip that goes all the way down the spillway.
Go watch Steve Kennedy and some of the Elite Series stuff. You can go watch the Elite Series on the Alabama River, where they ran up to that. Edwin was back drifting down it parallel, fishing current seams on boulder eddies for those big Coosa spots. There's a number of different tournaments that you can watch that are textbook examples of this.
Right, but boat control is paramount. So I with this rising water stuff, now I'm gonna give you two things that you 100% have to remember. Rising water creates current, clearly. Falling water creates current. And if the bass are offshore and your water is starting to drop, those offshore spots will be absolutely on fire. The fish will be chewing and you will absolutely wreck them on the falling water. Falling water is absolutely one of my all-time favorite times to be offshore, is when that water's coming down. And remember this, as the water's dropping, it's creating a lot of current because it's pulling all of that water through the system. So now, if you're not offshore, you look for neck down areas, places where the lake gets tight, places where creeks get narrow in the mouths of the creek arms, where they dump into the main lake. That water is going to funnel through there. That neck down is going to make that current even faster in those areas. It's going to create eddies on both sides of the neck down, and the bass will stack up in those eddies on those neck downs. So if you've got a wing dam, the back corner of the wing dam is now going to have a massive eddy behind it. Water will be rushing over the top. You'll see the current because the lake is dropping. Now, this happens in high water episodes, but everybody around the country, except maybe Florida, they draw lakes down in the fall and winter for flood control. This happens during drawdown too, from normal lake level to winter pool level. This happens during those drawdown periods too. So keep that in mind, because they're two identical patterns that happen. Only one's taking it from flood stage to normal, and the other one's taking it from normal to winter pool. And that's pretty much how I deal with high water episodes.
All right. While you've been talking, I came up with a couple examples. Do you want to see the Dustin Connell with the rising water where he went back and found moving water? This is perfect. Exactly. All right. Here it is. This is off of Dustin's YouTube channel. It's the one where he drives into a tornado, if you want to find it. But watch this. So, you know, he's in practice. He's looking. Look, you can see the moving water.
You could see it. Yeah.
Watch. He's literally like, this was a really good video for education wise. Look, you can see this stuff. Look, he's in an eddy off to the side with a hard bank on some rock. He's fishing where the moving water is. He's trying to figure out where the fish are. Look how that water's different, where he just cast, bam, jacked one right there.
Yeah, that's a current seam. Okay.
Is that not a perfect example? And that's on Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, where it's not, I mean, it looks like a river, but it's not.
Yeah, that's money, dude. That's exact current seam where he caught that bass. You saw how the slow water was on one side and the faster water was ripping down.
Yep.
That is 100% a current seam.
This is another example. So this is where he's talking about casting his jig up on the rock on where it is. Like, look at that rock. That's what you were talking about there. He's talking about it. Now watch what he's going to do. He's like reading the rock and he's like, dude, I'm going to be catching him up there.
Yeah, exactly. He's 100% correct.
Yeah, and then he got it stuck in a bush. But anyway, so he was talking about that. And then the other thing that you talked about kind of during spawning when some of the fish would stay in the same areas, this jogged my memory. I want to go back to 2014 when Matt Airy was dominant on Beaver Lake under a number of different conditions. There was a bunch of rain, the water was coming up, it was muddy, everyone was kind of moving around with it. And it says, while other pros went looking for bass stuck in those in-between transitional period, Airy relied on a shallow stain water pattern that allowed the early pre-spawn bass to come with them. He made the gutsy call to commit to the pattern despite 4 consecutive days of shifting weather patterns. So what he was doing was targeting smallmouth spots and largemouth who were committed to that because they were in that spawning spawning area. So like I said, I was paying attention, but I was trying to find some of these videos.
No,
so
that's sweet.
I found a video from that event that literally is the exact type of stuff on Beaver Lake. So this is the type of stuff he was fishing with that jig. He was just pitching a little bitty jig, regardless of where the water level and color was to those fish that were on the original bank line there, even though that water was rising on the bluff chunk rock outside of spawning areas.
Yeah, that's money, dude. That is money. But yeah, I mean, that's just over the course of the years that I've been fishing, that this is exactly what I've come to realize. Now, I had a lot of opportunities long before I ever fished Bassmasters to fish flooded water rivers and lakes because I fished the Ohio River a lot, and a lot of times it would flood. And I learned really quick what you need to look for on the river systems when it's flooding. Lakes were a little bit different because we had to wait for our lakes to flood. Once they flooded, then it was just trial and error till I started figuring stuff out. So it's not, high water is not difficult. We make it more difficult than it is. You just got to remember the bass behavior.
All right, it has reached that time of the show where we're going to give away color number 7. I have added the link to, you can just click on the direct link. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the direct link. It'll take you straight to StreamYard. If you're listening on your phone or a PC, you do need Google Chrome if you're to enter StreamYard. If you're on a Mac or an Apple, it works on your iPhone there too. If you want to do the copy the link, I also put it in the comments there. But like I said, go to StreamYard, just log in. And if I don't go to you, like I see Bill in Illinois, but it says his device is not connected, you have to engage your video and your audio. I see a bunch of guys on here. All right, we'll go in order. If you have a question for Frank, we'll jump in, and then I will keep a list of our live viewers. Oh my gosh, Frank. Should I I'm looking at this is my 2023 and 2024 notebook, and it's like all my notes for like every BTL show. That I'm gonna probably keep that for the archives. That'll be fun. All right, I see Lincoln. I see Josh. Let's go. The first one. Josh in Minnesota. We got audio?
We got audio.
We got audio. What's up, Josh? Thanks for jumping on. All right. New feature on BTL. You're the first one. We're going to try to do this at least once a month where we can get to know some of the BTL listeners. They can look Frank directly in the eye and ask him a question. So what do you got?
Yeah. So as you know, I know how to catch smallies. Very good at it. Know how to, all times a year, know how to approach it. What I struggle with is post-spawn largies in natural lakes in Minnesota. Where to catch them, where to look for them. How do you break down a lake and look for post-spawn largemouth in So a lot of our lakes right now, it's a funky year in Minnesota too. We came out of a drought year, had a ton of rain the last couple of months. Lakes are back up to normal levels. We're seeing a ton of curly leaf still. The temperatures haven't gone up, so the curly leaf is still very present in a lot of our lakes, and the milfoil isn't up, coontail isn't up, so it's mostly just curly leaf. Temps in 65 to 68, sometimes 69 range right now. Just had a tournament last night. Biggest bag was 15 pounds. Biggest fish was 3.5. The lake that we go can put out 5.5 pounders, but it's a struggle right now for a lot of us.
All right, so the post spawn is probably my least favorite time to fish up here for largemouth. They get funky. What we had up here was our fish spawned way earlier than normal. Like we're almost done, except for Lake Erie. All our inland lakes are almost done. And I was actually out last week chasing post spawners, and same dude. It's 100% exact what you said. The coontail ain't good yet. The milfoil ain't good. There's still curly leaf pondweed out. So here's what I traditionally try to do. I go to where they spawn. I go to where I see all the empty beds, and I fish my way out from there, because you're going to run into them eventually. They weren't offshore, because I checked. I have a tendency especially where you're at on those grass lakes. One of my favorite techniques is cranking the grass edges. The deeper coontail is one of my favorite techniques. So what wound up happening was funky bite, wound up going to a Ned rig with a 5-inch dinger to fan cast in the pockets.
You love that thing, Frank.
Yeah, I know.
The ugliest bait on earth, and you just
I don't love it, but damn it catches them. I went to the crazy shad because they wouldn't take walking baits real good. Like, here's what happened. I was throwing a Super Spook Junior. One comes up behind it, and you could see the bait do its thing, and the bass is gone. And they wouldn't commit to it. So I threw the crazy shad out there, which is a cotton cordell double-sided prop bait. Little twitch, little twitch, little twitch, and all of a sudden the bait would just go underwater like a bobber. They weren't like smoking it. It was a real weird lethargic kind of bite. I wound up catching them on the crazy shad, the 5-inch dinger on a really super light net head, which is a really neat trick, especially in those grass lakes, because I use the 1/10 with the tiny hook in it, which everyone's like, oh my God, that thing is, looks like a little number 6 worm hook in the thing. But it won't hang up in the grass. And so it'll float down, and you can feather it, and it lands on top of the grass, sits there, and you slide it off the grass. It falls again, sits there. You shake it off another blade of grass, et cetera, and it works. It doesn't bury up in. And the bass have a tendency to be feeding up at that time. So that was the thing. I couldn't catch them on jerkbaits. They weren't crazy active. And so basically, to answer your question, I go to where they're spawning, and I start to fish my way out. Once I start getting bites at a certain area, then I'll look at the lake map, and I'll go, okay, I should catch them here, here, and here. And then I go run it. You'll start to really smash them as post spawn goes. The longer the post spawn goes towards the end of post spawn, you'll start really wrecking them. It's just that first
transition phase from post spawn. I always struggle at that time.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of cussing last week.
You always do a lot of cussing, Frank.
Yeah, I do, but I was. I mean, I'm going to admit it. I was.
All right, Josh, thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Flawless in the first one. I appreciate it, and we'll keep rolling.
Sounds good.
All right, there it is. That's Josh from Minnesota. All right, you ready to go to the next one? We're 1 for 1 so far. Let's go to Lincoln. There's Lincoln. Lincoln, how we doing?
Good. You?
Good. Where are you calling from?
Calling up Ontario, Canada, Port Perry.
Nice. Outstanding, dude.
Yeah. I actually have 2 questions. One is Josh's fault because he made me think of something. Post spawn largies. We got on fry garters on top water, and we could catch a whole bunch of 2-pounders. If you've got the 2-pounders pattern, the males, the fry garters, where are the females, Frank?
They're out farther from them.
Okay.
And then the other question. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, they're out farther from them, and that's the tricky thing, because the females, everybody says they got to recoup, they got to rest, they're tired, they're beat. They're just gravitating slowly towards their summer pattern, and they're going to find areas that are in their comfort zone, and usually they're out from where the fry garters are. You may catch a big female mixed in with the fry garters because naturally all bass don't spawn at the exact same time. So you could conceivably find females that haven't spawned yet or that are on beds. But for the most part, those big females that did their thing already, they're starting to pull out again. And so you got to intercept them somewhere between spawning grounds and summer grounds.
Got ya. And then the other thing I was wondering about, you were talking about that deep bluff and that you wound up fishing it with the Bandit. You started with a spinnerbait, and I'm just wondering what you were doing, slow rolling deep or yo-yoing or what?
Yeah, I was fishing the pockets in the bluff. So here, I'll do a real quick, very crude as could be illustration.
It'll probably be way better than anything.
No, I'm doing a top water view.
Have a
here.
anatomically correct double willow leaf when we're done here.
No.
Crude drawings are never crude.
No, it's crude. So if this is the bluff.
Okay, I take back my previous statement
because I'm trying to do this fast. If this is the bluff wall, this is the bluff wall. This is the pocket in the bluff, the cut in the bluff, right?
Right.
All the timber lays down in here that gets washed in. So all the timber on the bank when it floods falls in here. So in the center of that pocket is deep timber, and it could be anywhere from 6 feet deep to 20 feet deep. And so I was just chucking the spinnerbait straight up the gut and literally dragging it. So it was crawling up and over all the timber, correct.
Nice.
And literally it was just slow. Yeah, it's a volcano.
I thought it was a zit.
Yeah, or that. but slow rolling it, so it literally I'm dragging it almost like a football head through that timber. Now, the reason that I chose the spinnerbait versus a jig or a 10-inch worm, because in the summer I do that a lot with a 10-inch worm, because of the current over there, the shad were piling into these pockets, and it was more prevalent.
There you go.
It was way more prevalent. Yeah.
Nice. Great cast, guys.
Anything else, Lincoln?
No, that's awesome. I'm sure I'll have more, but next time.
Greatly appreciate it, man.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. That was Lincoln. All right. We're 2 for 2. Let's see if we can go 3 for 3 and bring in Dave, who is in Indiana. We got you, Dave.
What's up, guys?
How we doing, Dave?
Working, unfortunately, but now my question for Frank is, I fished the Hoosier BFLs. 3 of our 5 tournaments is on the Ohio River, unfortunately. My biggest problem that I have is figuring out when do I go in the shallow creeks, the deep creeks, or stay on the main.
Yeah, that's the most important thing about the Ohio River. So here's my rule of thumb. In the spring, I go in the creeks because the bass are going in there. They're going to spawn in there, but it doesn't have to be a major creek arm. It could be a short pocket. They're just going to get up in there to spawn. So that's when I'm spending the time in the creeks. And then again, I go back to the creeks late in the fall when the bait fish start to migrate back there. But the Ohio River's tricky because there's a beautiful main river pattern that goes on in the fall. And
Absolutely.
So you can't overlook that to run up the back of a creek. But in the spring, you probably want to be in the creeks for sure. Summertime, I'm a main river guy. In the summer, I'm always on the main river. And in the summer, I'm always looking for current. The current's everything. And if you have any grass in the river, because you know how the river's cyclical with its grass cycles. Sometimes you have great grass patches in one area, and next year it's void, and they're of grass, and you got to go find another stretch of grass somewhere else. So I fish the main river in the summer, and then in the summertime, there's actual places that you could almost structure fish in the summer, but it has to be, if it's going to be off the bank, it's got to be something with a steep break on it. So you got a current break, because when the bass, especially spotted bass and smallmouth, have a tendency to feed on the upcurrent side of things or on top. And then when they're neutral, they slide into the current break and they relax in the current break. So you're going to want to do that. And the other thing is creek mouths. I fish the creek mouths on the Ohio River October all the way through the winter, where you got the big defined creek mouths that dump into the river. What are you dropping? What are you working, a bulldozer?
No, actually, it's a truck that dumps carts. So I had a guy come in behind me here, so I figured I'd get out of his way.
Nice.
But I was sitting still and realized he was behind me. So
that's okay. I mean, I'm hoping I'm answering it, because it's a lot. You know what I mean?
You are, yeah. The Ohio River is a lot, and unfortunately, we got to spend a lot of time on it. So
it can be good, but it runs in cycles. I mean, you got to be patient with the river. High water episodes, run, fish the locks. You know what I mean? But as far as the creek question goes, springtime, I'm in the creeks in the pockets. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I'm a main river guy all the way.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys' time. Appreciate the show.
Dude, this is working fantastic. Have a good rest of your day. We love it when people are able to work and listen at the same time. Kill two birds with one stone.
I do it every day.
Just don't drop a card on anybody.
Yeah. All right, Dave, all right. I got you down. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave.
All right, there we go. That's Dave. Yeah, this is playing. This is working. Remember, guys, if you want to ask Frank a question live on air, the direct link is in the YouTube description of this show. It is also, you can also just copy the link that I have pinned on the front, and then it's also in the comments as well under the Bass Talk live. Make sure that you have your audio and your video enabled. If you're not able to log on, if you're using a Mac, you need to download Google Chrome. And I think you can just get on with your phone. You might have to have the StreamYard app. I don't believe that you do, but we have not forgotten about those who can't log in via video. So Gary asks, we're only doing the giveaway though for the video calls today, but we'll still entertain the questions on the text. How far will largemouth travel if they drop the water out of shallow cover where they have been during post spawn? Well, and I gotta go run get the door. I'll let you bloviate on this for a minute.
Go for it. So Gary, the distance that the bass are going to travel when they drop the water is predicated on how fast they're dropping the water. No bass is going to be caught dry, so they're always going to be in front of it. They're not going to move 2 miles. They're just going to stay in their comfort zone ahead of the falling water. That could be a half a cast from the bank. That could be 2 casts from the bank. That's pretty much how they're going to be. Now, the thing is, they're going to look for food. And so the falling water is going to create current. And so you have to look for current. Now, the video Matt showed of the guy up that one creek where the current was raging through there, you don't have to find current like that. Just slight current's good enough. And then they're going to take and set up where there's neck downs, tighter areas where the current can speed up through there. There's just going to be more bait fish traffic through that area. And that's kind of how they're going to do it. Post spawn is tricky because they're moving to summer pattern. So if they're dropping the lake back to normal pool, then they'll start to behave normally once that water level settles. If they're taking it from normal pool to below normal pool, then you're going to have to try to follow them out on near shore structure till you run into them, and then you'll see how far they're traveling. And you could get a gauge on that by, if you find them here today and there tomorrow, you know that if the water keeps coming down the next day, you probably got to go to there.
All right, you ready to go to another video call?
Rocket.
All right, let's go to Nick.
Hey,
What's
guys.
up, Nick? How's
Hey,
it going?
Nick.
So, a question for you. It might be controversial. I texted it in, but Matt was saying you got to call in. So, my question is how would you run your forward-facing system setup in a current, like a heavy current system, trying to run those seams and watching moving fish?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to play with your gain and stuff if there's
It's really
a lot
hard.
of debris. Matt, you want to do the forward game?
Yeah. In heavy current, it's really hard because you've got the boat moving and you have the water moving. There's typically a lot more particles, and the water has a lot more stuff in it. And then you also have the turbidity of the water, which also picks it up. That's one of the areas where guys who just have experience fishing that stuff excel, because it is real hard to scope and then also to put your bait in front of a fish with the current, with the water moving like that. So it's not an ideal scoping scenario. It's not impossible, because you have to go like up against the current to stand still, but like on Thousand Islands in the river, really hard to pinpoint precise scope on smallmouth, just because you're moving 1.7, 1.8, 2 miles an hour like that, but you can still pick out the boulders and stuff. But as far as seeing individual fish, scope and target it, dang near impossible.
So would you run a 2-tier system where you run the forward facing and then have another setup with a down image? So that we keep the distance as they're approaching, and then use your down fire at them?
Yeah, you can. So what, I'll give a little bit of giveaway here. What a lot of guys are doing in current situations, especially if they're back trolling or drifting backwards, is they'll have their live scope transducer facing backwards, so they can push forward, but when they're looking down, they're seeing what's coming up, and then as they pass it, they know what's directly in front of them, and that way they can kind of stay on those fish or those boulders. So if you know you're drifting back at 0.9 miles an hour and you see the boulder come from under, you can get lined up with it. You know you're directly, you go over it, and then you can cast to it even though you can't see it. So there are guys who run one in current situations, front and back.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
It's yeah, I mean, dude, there's a million different ways, but as a whole, like, current's a pain in the butt to scope in. I know Frank. So like one of the cool things with the BTL is Frank is learning this as we go over the past year, but there's a lot of scenarios you haven't experienced yet. That's one of them, I think, Frank, that it'll make you want to pull your hair out sometimes, but it's also nice because, you know, hey, we're fishing, we're reading the water, we're fishing the current seams here. And the more turbidity, the more speed you have, the harder it is to scope.
Right. It's more instinct, but but I use my 2D sonar a lot in the river systems, especially if I'm fishing deep for smallmouth. I'll use my 2D sonar and then play the drift game with the trolling motor slowing me down and try and stay vertical under the boat. I've not forward faced in heavy current yet. So I've not done it.
Do you feel your steelheading has been a big part of that to help you with that?
Huge, because I understand river current really well. Just remember that a lot of times, especially if you're talking smallies and spots, they feed on the up current side and they feed on top of the structure. When they're not in a feeding mode, they're on the down current side. So if you see them on the eddy side, you know you got to get on them and you got to make them bite.
And Nate points out too, they also, when there's current, they hug the bottom, so they're real hard to pick up on it. And that's why you're catching them on Neds and jigs and stuff that, especially on the smallmouth.
Right. So here's something that I learned steelhead fishing, and it's amazing. So here I got a baseball size rock, literally the size of a baseball. I have seen 12-pound steelhead literally sit behind that rock, and it breaks enough current where that fish barely moves a fin to stay in place. And so the smallmouth will do the same thing. They get on the bottom because all the little bumps on the bottom create little mini current breaks for them to sit in, and they don't have to fight the current all day.
Okay, I got one more question. Since you just did that with the paper there, how long before we get a Frank SCALISH clay sculpture set up?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Where you could like make the structure right there. You just like rip up the.
You know what's funny? I did a video. I did a video on the Norman NXS, which is a fast, hard diving Norman crankbait. And in my studio, I went outside and I got all these rocks and I built a giant rock pile on the table. And so I could show its deflection characteristics.
New 2025 3D.
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, that's a great idea. Where are you based out of, Nick?
So I'm in Southern Ontario. I do a lot of running around. It's funny because Link was on here and I've actually fished with Link.
Okay.
Outstanding.
I'm just north of Toronto. So I spend a lot of time on Erie. I'm down Frank's Lake, actually.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you're up. You're more toward. You go more towards the islands than you go towards Buffalo.
I do spend. Actually, I go to Buffalo more than anything, but I have spent some time across on the other side there. I've also done a lot of steelheading, so I was trying to see how you were relating your steelheading to your bass fishing. It's pretty much what I'm kind of doing as well.
Dude, isn't steelhead fishing badass?
Dude, so many. You know what, Frank? You got to try. I'm gonna say it here. Have you ever tried using a spy bait for steelhead?
No, I've thrown square bills on them, but I've never thrown a spy bait on them.
When they hit that thing. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. Sorry.
That's okay, dude.
No, listen, this is intriguing. So, Gamakatsu, I was just at a Outdoor Brand Scene media event, and Bill Dance has designed. Just hear me out here. Bill Dance has designed a single crankbait circle hook that he swears by, that he's been throwing on his crankbaits around cover and things. It makes no sense, but it is on the market. And I would imagine 2 of those single crankbait circle hooks on a spy bait would make you legal if you can't use treble hooks for the steelhead, and then also allow you to get that thing down in the rocks and stuff. And then once you hook them, that might be something to look into.
Yep. Yeah, but there's no hook setting with the circle hook.
Listen, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to debate details. I haven't thrown it. We all thought it was crazy too. Bill Dance swears by it. Gamagotsu said that it could be one of the new things coming out. I'm just letting you know that it's out there.
Hey,
all right.
It's BTL, man. We're here to learn.
That's
I hear
right.
you. All right, thanks, Nick. I got you down.
All right,
Nick.
All right, let's jump right over to Dustin. What's up, Dustin?
Hey guys, what's going on?
What's happening?
Oh, not much.
Dude?
Where are you headed?
Oh, dudes, I am on the 91 in Southern California, driving to work in this chaotic bumper to bumper traffic.
All right. So keep your eyes on the road
every single day. Yeah.
You got a question?
Yeah, my question is, I fish kayak tournaments out here in this clear water, and the past 2 tournaments practice I've been on fish, been catching 85, 90-inch bags. Get in tournament, catch a 70-inch bag. So my question is, do you have any advice on staying on fish and finding fish in practice and keeping those fish going? I mean, I practice like the week in advance, so it's not the day before. I'm not out there ripping lips the day before and losing fish. And so I'm just trying to keep the fish going.
So on a typical practice day, even though you're a week prior to the event, are you going out there and putting on a freaking slugfest clinic?
Oh yeah, with everybody else on the water. There's 100 other boaters on the water at every given time. So
this question's gonna make you catch less fish, Dustin.
Yeah, well,
no, that's good.
The reality of it is you really, because you're so pressured, the lakes are so pressured. Pressure changes everything. Fishing pressure changes all of it. If you go out a week prior and you catch 20 or 30 bass off of a spot,
right,
you just hurt yourself, because a lot of times you'll move that school. Okay. So what you want to do is, if you go out and practice and you need something for size wise, you catch one and don't catch anymore, because
Yeah, that's what I did I caught 2 4-pounders off of one spot, and I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here. And then they weren't there when I went back the next week.
Yeah, because the chances are you found them in a transition to going somewhere else. So you'll have to look at the areas around there and see what else is available to them, cover or structure wise or grass wise, if you have grass down there. And then see what, because they're moving from there. If you find them here today and they're gone tomorrow, you intercepted them as they were moving to go somewhere. And so probably they're going into their summertime patterns over there.
Yeah, for sure. They're long spawns.
Yeah, so you got to keep moving out.
One of the things that happened to me at the Open on Washita this year was, I thought I could do 15, 16, and I was demikiing timber gut, and it had an island on one side and some hydrilla bank on the other with some points. And on the first day, I just like pushed it, wasn't catching them. I ran upriver and caught. And on the second day, I literally was like, where in the hell could these fish go? The bait is still here. So I just started fishing everything within 2 football fields of that gut. And I ended up, they had transitioned into the hydrilla edge. And I'm convinced they're the same fish that were suspended over the timber. And in 2 days, because it was sunny and calm, I think they slid up into that hydrilla edge. And I was like, I literally remember thinking I refound them. And I ended up having 16 pounds on the second day, but it was something that I wasn't planning on fishing, didn't have anything tied up for it, wasn't even really aware of what it was, but it was just adjacent cover that I did that in the tournament, that I just started sampling. And then by an hour in, I was like, okay, it needs to have timber in the hydrilla. They're more on the inside edge, and I need to work the bait really fast. And if 2 come out after it, I'm more like, so then I was like, holy cow, I dialed in this pattern in an hour and refound where these fish had been in practice. But it burned me on the first day because I didn't take the time to try to look around that area.
Yeah. So Matt, how long are you giving yourself on a spot? Like you caught them there the day before or whatever, the week before. How long are you burning that spot before you're moving up into that hydrilla? Are you fishing
I don't
that
know
for
if
2 hours? Or?
No, I'm fishing it until I don't feel like it's the right thing to do anymore. As long as I have confidence and I feel like it's my best option, as soon as the doubt starts creeping in my mind and I'm hoping, that's when I'm leaving. But that's just a mental thing for me. I don't really have any hard, 10 casts and I'm out. If I still feel 100% confident that they're there and that's my best option, I'll stay there for hours. But as soon as I just give up and say, hope one freaking shows back up, or one then I'm out. But that's just a confidence thing. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, I generally know if I find them in an area and I go there and I'm not catching them, I know I got to look around. So I immediately start looking around. I'm not going to make 10 casts and go, but I'm going to work that area and try to get all the high percentage places within where I found those fish. And if it's not working out, then I'm going to start looking for them again.
Perfect example. I was fishing an ABA on the Arkansas River 4 years ago. I found an offshore shell bed down in Kerr. And I made 2 casts with a square bill and caught 2.5 pounders, and then cast a drop shot up there and caught a 3-pounder. And I was like, I had never fished it. I was trying to figure it. It was in 4 foot of water. And I was like, my God, I'm going to win the Arkansas. I'm going to win this ABA. No doubt in my mind, I'm going to win it.
That's exactly where I was, man.
So I roll back on the first day and I tell my co-angler, I'm like, dude, we're going to roll down. We're going to lock through. I'm going to catch a 13-pound limit in about 8 casts, and then we're going to lock back up. If you throw shaky head up there, you'll probably catch a couple. I roll up there, and I fish it. Do not have a bite. Shatter's still there. Same conditions. Same current. Everything is identical as far as I'm concerned. Fish it for 20 minutes, nothing. Run all over the river up there. Don't have anything. And I go back with an hour left before I have to lock through. And I go right back to where I was, or I'd caught him in practice. Cast, nothing. And I said, I wonder if they slid around to the backside of this. I literally moved my boat 30 feet and cast to a different section of it. I'm not kidding. 5 casts in a row, 12-pound limit, done. So I go back the second day, start there, tell my co-angler, dude, limit 5 casts, we're done. Start where they had been the next day, nothing. Go, I wonder if they went back to where they had been, 5 casts, 12 pounds. Then I was like, oh my gosh, they moved back. So I sat there and killed it because it was the final day. Ended up finishing second by less than a pound. But it was the difference between not having a single bite and catching them every single cast was a 30-foot difference.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. You got to check everything all around where you had them, because sometimes they leave, sometimes they don't go far.
Yeah, I was getting like the wind blowing. I was fishing wind blowing points, and when the wind picks up, they're up on the points. So you're just moving out deeper without the wind.
Yeah, and they could suspend. They could suspend over there too without the wind. The wind's moving the bait. The bait are feeding. They're going where the wind goes. You know the drill. You know, and so you have to. If it's a wind pattern, that's tricky, because if the wind doesn't blow, you don't catch them.
It always blows out here. by 10 o'clock, we're seeing 15s usually.
Oh
yeah.
Priceless.
All right, Dustin, I got you down. Thanks for jumping
guys,
on.
so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Great show, guys.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.
All right, Lincoln is down. Yeah, I forgot about those. I did, Clay. There is a YouTube video out on that. I think that was either 19 or 20 or something like that. ABA. Lincoln's back on. You got another question, Lincoln?
Yeah, it's pursuant to what Nico was talking about.
You don't get 2 entries in it. You're still just down for the post-spawn largie question.
I'm just here to sponge the nectar, as you say.
I hear you.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, and maybe this is a topic for another day, but I'm wondering about the guys who have dual forward-facing sonar set up on the stern, looking sideways as if to side scan.
Yeah,
I can think of some, ideas about what would apply, but I'm wondering what you guys think about that.
I know exactly what it's for. So it's primarily for suspended bait balls and fish around them when they're in guts and open water. It's really difficult to pick that out on the side imaging. Now you can see it closer to the bottom or gizzard shad, bigger bait fish. But what that live allows you to do is to go down a gut, shoot out 120 feet either side and see exactly where the bait is and what is underneath them. You can drop a waypoint, then you spin back around, drop the trolling motor and scope that bait. But instead of going on your trolling motor and spending all that time, you can just make one pass down the gut or multiple passes down a flat and actually see the schools of bait fish on the deucers that are shooting out off of the console of the boat. And then some of the guys have them off the back, specifically in like smallmouth or schooling scenarios. They have it linked up to the front graph that way. Excuse me, they basically have 360 around the boat. And if there's a school or an individual fish that's behind the boat, they'll have that with a dedicated graph and black box, and they can spin around and chase it down. So those are the reasonings behind the ones that shoot off to the side or the ones that shoot directly behind. The ones that shoot off horizontal to the boat that are typically on like a sniper pole are for guys who want to look at structure under docks, determine which docks have brush on them, which docks have fish, and then they can just sit in the driver's seat. And so that's basically the different reasons and angles for all the live deucers around a vessel right now. Who knows what, I mean, there's could be others, but that's kind of the main reasons.
Right on. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Sense.
Yep.
Sorry, Frank?
Oh, I said, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah. I've actually got one rigged. I've got a little tin boat, but I've got 12 grand worth of electronics on it. And I've got one rigged on a pole. So when I'm idling and side scanning, I'm actually looking forward with my forward facing so that it's like a headlight looking forward. I can mark bait and fish ahead of me and even see something that I might hit and not want to hit. So comes in handy.
Yeah. A lot of guys will link their Garmin units, or you could do it with the Lowrance, and then they'll just keep the trolling motor down as they idle.
Yeah.
And kind of live scope with the trolling motor down that way. So
yeah, it's great technology. Be interesting to see what BASS comes out with.
I'm very interested. Thanks, Lincoln.
Thanks, guys.
Let's head to is that Ken in Pennsylvania?
That would be correct.
What's up, Ken? How are you doing?
How's it going, Matt? Good to talk to you. Good to see you, Frank.
Nice to see you.
In particular, I like your muskie story the other week. I had some similar issues with my blood instead of the
still healing.
blood.
I'm still healing up from it.
I feel your pain. So I have a question for you. Fishing ahead of a cold front. So a couple days of rain, temperature drop. The next day it's sunny. Any particular thoughts on movement, spots to check?
Generally speaking, if I've already found the fish, I'm not going to retry to find more fish. They're there. It's just going to be a matter of what they want to, how you want how you're going to get them to bite.
5-inch dinger on a Ned, Ken.
Yeah. Early in the season, like from, now to pre-now, earlier than now, I would lean on a jerkbait pretty heavy because I can control how fast or slow I want to fish it. So if the fish get kind of neutral, I can stall the jerkbait and let it pause longer, do more twitching and shaking and leaving it pause. And then conversely, like now, you could speed it up. You can keep it going and speed it up, and you could create a reaction strike. A lot of your bites coming in that time are going to be mostly reactionary.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Love the show.
Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks
Heck,
for
we're
jumping
6
on.
for 6, Ken. Everyone's been friggin' killing it on
wild.
this. Yeah, it's working really good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Ken is in there. You want to stop with 6 today? We're an hour and a half. We might have to do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn this into kind of a regular feature. I understand that not everybody has the cell service to be able to jump on and do this. I understand a lot of people are at work. They can't do this. We're going to continue to mix in evening shows. And if it is going to be a call-in show, video call-in show, we'll let you know the previous week. So that next week, if you want to have a chance to get dialed in with your audio, with your video, like I said, we went 6 for 6. I do have to give a shout out. Jeffries, who he keeps up with some stuff, Frank, but he's, like I said, he's bowling 99%, but he did that Mark After Dark. I went over and actually had a meeting with him, and it was the vintage, how are we taking it to the next level with how are you taking it? And one of the things he did with Mark After Dark was he threw a couple guests on, a couple viewers on, and I was like, you know what? We need to try that with day 4.
Yeah.
And shockingly, it went flawlessly. Like I said, I always brag. We have the most educated listener base in the game.
It was, it's pretty cool, really. I mean, I like it. I think it's outstanding. We're going to, in the very, very, very near future, and probably, I want to say next Thursday, but I got to double check on that. I want to do a trailer maintenance show, but I want to have the people that actually build the trailers on the show.
Yeah, I'm game with that.
Because obviously everybody knows my boat's an 09. I bought it used a couple of years ago and had seen the destruction and deterioration of a trailer. I tried to keep it going as long as I could. I tried to do all the tricks and tips to keep the trailer going good, but it got away from, I don't want to say it got away from me, it got away from the previous owner, and there was a lot of internal damage on the trailer, and I had reached out to a buddy of mine who works at a trailer place, and we were troubleshooting a lot of the issues, and as fate turned the corner, I wound up having to buy a new trailer because it was way beyond anything I could repair. And so I had to wind up buying a new trailer. But he was telling me things that you can do to get a lot more life out of your trailer and keep it safe and keep it running. And I'm like, you know what? We need to talk about this stuff because it's stuff that everybody and anybody could do at home.
Dude, I trailered an entire year in the old Skeeter, and the bunk was not it was 100% kept onto the trailer with 60-pound test sunline braid. Like, I backed my trailer in one time, and the bunk floated off. And I said, "My God, my bunk is floating off." And when I tried to put the bunk back on, the wood was so rotten that it wouldn't stay. So I'm at the boat ramp, and all I had was braid, and I literally just wrap for 10 minutes around each one. And then I was like, we're good. And then I kept it like that for close to a year.
You live on the edge, Matthew.
I did. So here's what we got. We had 6 callers. We had Josh, Lincoln, Dave, Nick, Dustin, and Ken. What I have done is I have randomly numbered 1 through 6 for the 6 callers, like not in order of which they called. I just put a number next
in no particular order.
Frank is about to call out a number between 1 and 6. And then if it is your question that you called in, thank you for being a part of the 6 of you guys that called in. And like I said, we could keep going, but you get a number set. Will you sign it on the top for him?
Yeah, I have them signed already.
Oh yeah, they're already signed. So it's autographed like that. Frank Scalish. This is actually, believe it or not, Dave Mercer's number 7 that he requested it, and I haven't.
I'm so glad you gave it to him.
I haven't seen him since then. I gotta mail it to him. But the color number 7 that's autographed. So 1 through 6, and then if that happens, you send me an email, matt@bassone.com, with your name, put in the title, number 7 winner, your address, and then I will forward that to Frank, who is very timely in his. You got about a 50% chance you're sending something to Canada, Frank.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're good.
Okay,
all right.
I'm going with
1 through 6.
Number 5.
Number 5 was Nick, who asked about forward-facing sonar in the current and how to do that. So Nick, shoot. There he is. There's Nick. Shoot me a message with your email
and
address, mailing address.
And then I will get that off to you right away.
All right, that was a killer show, Frank. That was entertaining, educational, and engaging. Next week,
slick.
Trailer maintenance. It was. I always have to move myself on this side because you're a man of tradition, and it messes you up if you're on the right side of the screen.
Okay, because here's what happens. Okay, if I'm on the other side, then I feel like I'm looking off the computer, and I want to.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? I want to be like that.
Did you happen to watch Jordan Lee axe murder him on a frog in MLF? If you haven't, you need to go watch the highlights.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the highlights and watch. I have to be honest with you. I got into a show that I wish I didn't get into, called Black Sails.
What? I never even heard of that.
Dude, you have to watch it. It's a pirate. It's an old pirate show thing.
Oh, it's an old one, like 24.
No, it's not old. It's new,
a series.
It's a series.
No, it is old, Frank.
Well, yeah, but it's not old. Like it's not like black and white with
No, it was from 2014 to 2017.
Yeah, but I have to be honest with you. I started watching it, and I'm addicted to it, and I can't stop watching it. Last night I flipped and binge watched it till 1 a.m. I gotta stop doing that because I'm that's a waste of time. But I can't help it. Anyway, there you go.
I've given MLF a lot of love on this. I'll show you what you got to go see. So they do like a highlight deal after every day. Jordan Lee won it exclusively on Toho throwing a frog, and he just had to consistently upgrade his rod to where he ended up with a extra heavy 7.9 and 7.10 rod on 60-pound braid, and then he couldn't go get him when he hooked him because he didn't want to destroy the mat. So he would then be bringing 7-pounders through 50 yards of cheese with a 7.10 extra heavy.
So what he wound up doing was dragging 13 pounds of grass with a 7-pound largemouth.
He was on the show and talked about this. It's one of my favorite shows on BTL. I know we don't talk about like the normal BTLs a lot of times on day 4, but that one was well worth going back and watching. I just want to get your initial reaction. There's no audio to this. I mean, there is. You can watch it, but not on this. But watch. Oh, we need to get the hook set. Just wait. Just wait, Frank. This is $100,000 on the line, by the way.
You know, I did see this. Look at him leaning into that, man. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So there's just a bunch of stuff like that on that. So that's worth going back. Like if you want some old school frogging, that's the type of thing that'll make you make bad life decisions and say, screw it, I'm going to the lake right now.
Oh yeah, that's bad. And I'm never putting the frog down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's outstanding. Holy smokes, dude. I'd have to use my 806 for that.
I don't even have. I've got a 7.9 extra heavy flipping stick. I think that's the only thing I even have that would remotely handle that.
Yeah, dude. Oh man.
All right. Same place, same time next week. We'll do it all over again, except it'll be day 4, 166, because I believe this is 165, or maybe this is 166. We'll say
I don't even know. Is that terrible that I don't even know?
No, it's not. That's good. As we march towards 200 next week, also stay on the lookout. The June 6th, the release of Signature Series Color number 2.
Moss
we'll go
back,
full screen on that.
Moss back craw.
Code capital BTL 24 on lurenet.com to just grab one. That's all we got.
That's it.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks for everybody for jumping on. Thanks for the guys for calling in. Like I said, we'll have a little bit more. This was a little spur of the moment. Just wanted to test it out, and it went flawlessly.
It was cool. I liked it.
So we'll talk to everybody next week. See ya.